You're listening to Keith Sports News. Hey, how's it going, folks? Welcome to a special Tuesday edition of KSN. That's right. I decided to wait an extra day. Okay. I'll explain why here. So, you see the shirt that I'm wearing? That's right. Yesterday was March 10th, also known as Mario Day. Yep, and I did a big stream of me playing some Super Mario games, and this year is also the 40th anniversary, which is crazy how long that franchise has been around. So, now, back to sports talking. So, the reason why I missed Monday's episode is because, well, if you've listened to the last couple episodes, they were mainly wrestling talk, pro wrestling talk, and it's because of the John Cena heel turn. So, I waited an extra day just to see if John Cena showed up on Monday Night Raw. Well, guess what? He didn't show up on Friday Night SmackDown, and he did not show up on Monday Night Raw. Yeah. I guess we can't really see him. Get it? Yeah. So, I'm not going to talk much about pro wrestling in this episode because there are other sports news that I want to talk about. So let's talk about the other sports news first. And this episode will be much shorter, okay? Because there really isn't much to talk about based on what I know and what I saw the past couple of days. But hey, almost every day I would listen to my favorite sports talk shows, and then that's where I'll get more news from them. And if it's big news that I already know, then I'll break that news. So, speaking of breaking news, so I have the ESPN app, the notifications, where they'll give me like big news, breaking news, scores of your favorite teams, new episodes of favorite podcasts, and all that. So, in the MLB, starting off with Major League Baseball, breaking news: Yankees ace Gerrit Cole will undergo Tommy John surgery and miss the 2025 season. Wow. That is really some breaking news right there. The past couple of days, I think I got some notifications saying Gerrit Cole has some type of injury or something that he may require Tommy John surgery, and now he really has to, or he really needs to get it. Man, it seems like every great pitcher gets Tommy John surgery. Yeah, didn't that happen to Shohei Ohtani? He could not pitch last year. This year he'll be back, but I heard that he won't be back at the beginning of the season. I think he'll miss the first month of the season, but he'll be back in the month of May. So, last year it was Shohei Ohtani. Now, this year, it's Gerrit Cole. Damn, man. He was in the World Series last year. And I have not listened to the Michael Kay show yet. I will listen to that later today. I'm sure he'll give his thoughts. Yeah, Michael Kay, the voice of the New York Yankees on the Yes Network. And he mainly talks New York Yankees and the other New York sports teams. It's funny because I am not a New York Yankee fan, and I'm not a New York sports fan. I live nowhere near New York, but I do like his show. Last year was his final year with his two co-hosts, Don LaGreca and Peter Rosenberg. This year he decided to do the show on his own, Michael K. solo, and you can only listen to it on radio, on the app, okay? Which I don't mind, because a lot of these shows, there's no video anyways. But it would have been cool if there is a video. Because last year, or the original Michael K. show, was on the Yes Network from 2014 to 2024. Like 10 years straight, So, I'll have to hear what he has to say. And I'm sure a lot of disappointed Yankee fans will call in and they'll give their thoughts. So, dang, that's official. Gerrit Cole out for the 2025 season. And I think, well, I don't know. Let's see how the Yankees do without him. I think the Yankees will still do pretty good. They may not be as good as last year because of this injury. I don't know. I haven't really listened or watched much baseball news. I would usually do that more when the season starts. The season is coming up pretty soon. Opening day, I believe, is on March 27th. The New York Yankees' first game will be on ESPN exclusively with the returning of Joe Buck. Yeah, I talked about that. Joe Buck will return to broadcasting an MLB game. He hasn't done that since the end of the 2021 World Series. That was his last game on Fox. He moved to ESPN in 2022 to become the new voice of Monday Night Football. Only Monday Night Football. And I guess ESPN invited him to do this game. And he said he's happy to do it. That's cool. I don't know if he's going to do multiple games during the season, or is it just this one-time game. But the New York Yankees will be facing the Milwaukee Brewers at Yankee Stadium, and it's only on ESPN. And that was, Michael K. was talking about that because he's usually on the call for the Yankees' first regular season game, but not this year. He got kind of disappointed. He was happy for Joe Buck to come back, but at the same time, he was also kind of disappointed because he wasn't able to call the opening game. It's only on ESPN. But, hey, that's cool that Joe Buck's coming back. I will try. Hopefully I'll remember to tune into that game. I believe it's an afternoon game because I think the LA Dodgers are playing that night. The World Series champs, they'll have a little ceremony. I think that they usually do that. The World Series champs gets the primetime ESPN game on opening day. So, but man, Gerrit Cole, one of the best pitchers, if not the best pitcher in the whole league, out for the season. Damn. I remember he used to play for the Houston Astros for like 2 years, and then before that he was with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Man, I'll have to hear what Michael Cole and his callers have to say here. And baseball tonight with Buster Olney as well. Says here more breaking news from Jeff Passan, the MLB insider for ESPN. It says New York Yankees ace Gerrit Cole will undergo Tommy John surgery tomorrow to repair a torn right ulnar collateral ligament and missed the 2025 season. Oh my gosh, it is that serious. It seemed like last year, I don't watch much of the MLB, mainly because their rule changes, but I'm still interested to know what's happening throughout the season. Last year and the year before, there was a lot of baseball injuries. I mean, when is enough enough? It seems like injuries, I mean, I guess at this point, injuries are normal. Not just baseball. You get injuries in basketball, football, hockey, tennis, probably even golf. I don't watch golf, but there's probably some injuries in golf as well, but damn. So, I'll listen to, sometimes I'll listen to MLB Network Live radio on Sirius XM on my way to work every morning. It's pretty cool. So, yeah, it's big news, man. Speaking of injuries, I don't think I ever talked about this. I think it was last week in the NBA. Kyrie Irving, I think he tore his ACL or something like that, and he's out for the rest of the season. I guess the Dallas Mavericks are now a cursed team. They traded Luka Doncic, and now they get Anthony Davis from the Lakers. Anthony gets hurt, and now Kyrie is hurt and out for the rest of the season. What the heck? I feel bad for the fans. That's very unfortunate. This team was in the NBA Finals last year, even though I think all of us knew they weren't going to win it, but dang, they may not even make the playoffs after that. I don't really know the standings. Actually, you know what? Let's check the standings. I'm going to check the standings right now. I think the NBA playoff starts in about a month at least from now. All I know is that the New Orleans Pelicans, the closest team to where I live, they are the worst team. That team is never any good. Even with Zion Williamson. Oh, looks like the Cleveland Cavaliers has clinched. Wow, they have more wins than the Boston Celtics. Yeah, didn't the Celtics, they won the championship last year, right? Yeah, they're good again this year, but this year, the Cleveland Cavaliers are the best team. 54 wins and 10 losses. Wow. I remember when the Cavaliers were in the NBA Finals. The one that they won in 2016, that was a really good Finals. And then in 2017, 2018, they were in the Finals again, and they got smashed. And then I think the 2019 Cleveland Cavaliers, they were like the worst team. It's crazy. Like a roller coaster that franchise has had. The New York Knicks, I hope the New York Knicks can go back to the NBA Finals. I think the last time they won the NBA Finals was in 1973. That's a long time ago. Over 50 years ago. That's Stephen A. Smith's favorite team. Stephen A. Smith was a little boy back then. I think he's like 57 years old. So how old was he back then? Like 6? He was a 6-year-old when they won the championship. Hey, I hope the New York Knicks win. Mainly because I do like the Michael Kay show. I kind of do wish the New York sports teams well. Last NFL season, both the Jets and the Giants stink. I'll also wish for the New York Rangers to be well in the NHL playoffs. Last year I was listening to some of the games on their radio. I do like their announcers. So I do wish the New York Knicks and the New York Rangers both well in the NBA and NHL playoffs because they both happen at the same time. But hey, half the teams make the playoffs at this point. So Cleveland Cavaliers are the best team in the Eastern Conference, 54 wins and 10 losses as of this recording. Worst team, wow, the Washington Wizards, 13 wins and 50 losses. Western Conference, Oklahoma City Thunder are the best team with 53 wins and 12 losses. What if that's the finals? Cavaliers against the Thunder. That's interesting. Denver Nuggets, are the second best team, but they are 11 games behind, and then followed by the LA Lakers. Oh wow, the worst team is the Utah Jazz on the Western Conference. They're already eliminated. 15 wins and 50 losses. Well, the New Orleans Pelicans are right there with them with 17 wins and 48 losses. So, speaking of basketball, I wasn't sure if Selection Sunday happened this last Sunday for March Madness, but nope. Selection Sunday is this upcoming Sunday. I heard that Christopher Mad Dog Russo will have a special live show of him talking about or breaking down the March Madness matchups. So March Madness will begin 1 week from Thursday. So what date is that? That is on March 20th. Okay. And every year I fill out my bracket, so I guess I'll go through the matches while I fill out my bracket, even though I don't really watch basketball. This is really like the only time I'll watch some basketball. March Madness is pretty cool. I do like their coverage, so. Same with the NBA. I don't really watch the NBA until really the finals, or sometimes I don't even watch the finals. Because I'm more into the NHL playoffs, that's why. Because like I said, I mentioned that I have the Canadian channels, TSN. That's like the only time I'll get my hockey news and highlights, because for some reason ESPN barely talks about the NHL. Even though a couple weeks ago they had the Four Nations face-off, and that was a huge success. And they did it at the best time of the sports calendar year, because at the time the NBA was in their All-Star break, NFL season ended, the MLB season hasn't started yet. Not much happening in the month of February after the Super Bowl, you know. Speaking of football, I just remembered the UFL season, the United Football League season, is coming up. I believe their first season is the first game is at the end of March. Yep, Friday, March 28th. The first game is the St. Louis Battlehawks against the Houston Roughnecks. I'll talk more about the UFL when the season comes closer. Okay. One of my viewers, subscribers, 5Tayer, if you're listening to this, you like the St. Louis Battlehawks, and I hope they do well, because that team should have gone to the championship last year. Somehow they didn't make it. Last year's championship was in St. Louis. That would have been cool to see the Battlehawks in the championship game in their own home stadium, because in my opinion, the Battlehawks have the best fans. It's not the Birmingham Stallions. Even though the Birmingham Stallions have won 3 straight championships, back-to-back in the USFL, and they won the UFL last year. I hope the Birmingham Stallions don't win it again. Any team but the Stallions. I'll root for them. I wonder if Wade Phillips is still the coach at San Antonio. Let me look him up right now. Because Wade Phillips is an old coach. He's been around forever. This man has had a crazy history with coaching. He's been coaching at a lot of NFL teams. Let's talk about Wade Phillips for a little bit. I'll tell you all the teams that he's coached for. Dang, he's 77 years old. And he's currently the head coach at the San Antonio Brahmas. I was cheering for San Antonio when they were in the championship game, but too bad they got smashed in a shutout against the Stallions. Let me tell you all the teams that he has coached. Starting off in, I guess, the University of Houston, graduate assist, 1969. Defensive coordinator, Lutcher Stark, Texas, 1970 to 72. Linebackers coach at Oklahoma State, 1973 to 74. Defensive lineman coach, Kansas, 1975. Then it was a bunch of NFL teams after that. Defensive line coach, Houston Oilers, 1976 to 1980. Defensive coordinator for the New Orleans Saints, 1981 to 85. Then he became the interim head coach for the Saints in 85. Then he became the defensive coordinator / linebackers coach for the Philadelphia Eagles, 1986 to 88. Then he became the defensive coordinator for the Denver Broncos in 1989 and 1992. Then he became the Broncos head coach, 1993 to 94. Then he became the Buffalo Bills defensive coordinator, 1995 to 97. Then he became the Bills head coach from 1998 to 2000. Then the Atlanta Falcons defensive coordinator from 2002 to 03. Then he became the interim Falcons head coach in 2003. Then he became the defensive coordinator for the San Diego Chargers from 2004 to 06. Then he became the Dallas Cowboys head coach from 2007 to 2010. Then he became the defensive coordinator for the Houston Texans from 2011 to 13. Then he became the Houston Texans interim head coach in 13. Denver Broncos defensive coordinator from 2015 to 16. Defensive coordinator for the LA Rams, 2017 to 19. Then he took a little break from head coaching for a couple of years, and then he became the Houston Roughnecks head coach, the good Houston Roughnecks, in 2023 in the XFL at the time in 2023. Then last year he became the head coach for the San Antonio Brahmas, and that's where he is as today. He won the Super Bowl 50 for the Denver Broncos. Damn, what a career he's had. You can tell he is a great defensive coach, and he is still coaching. So I wish Wade Phillip the best. So we'll see what happens here. And yeah, let's see other news I want to talk about. There's this show I really like to listen to every Saturday on SiriusXM. It's mainly a tennis show. It's called Holding Court with Patrick McEnroe. I've always liked P-Mac. He's an ESPN commentator. You'll see him at 3 of the 4 Grand Slams. So the most recent one, the Australian Open. Next time you'll see him will be at Wimbledon. That's not until late June and early July. And then the United States Open in New York in late August and early September. So I really like him. He does talk about some other sports, mainly the big news, but it's mainly a tennis show. Not much people talk about tennis, but I know March is actually a big month for tennis. We got the Indian Wells, in California, and then later this month, the Miami Open. But I mainly follow women's tennis because there's more upsets. The rankings go crazy sometimes on the women's side. I don't really follow men's tennis that much. Mainly the 4 Grand Slams. So all I know is that Jannik Sinner, the number 1 seeded player on the men's side, is suspended until early May, I believe. I believe he'll be able to come back by early May. The suspension will be lifted by then, and he'll be back for Rome, Italy. Wow, playing that tournament in his home country. And then the French Open, Roland Garros, will be around Memorial Day. It'll start around there, so he'll be there for that. We'll see how he does on clay court, because he's a dominant hard court player. We'll see how he does for the clay court season, but he is number 1 in the rankings. No one's even close to him. See who's number 2 in the rankings. I believe it's Alexander Zverev, or Sasha Zverev as they would call him. Yeah, he's number 2. He faced Jannik Sinner in the Australian Open final, but Sinner was just too good for a hardcore player. Carlos Alcaraz is number 3. Taylor Fritz is number 4. Casper Ruud is number 5. I'm surprised Casper Ruud is still in the top 10, because for some reason he doesn't do well in the majors. But he's got his points up, number 5. Daniil Medvedev, number 6. Now, he's a pretty entertaining player, Medvedev. And, of course, in my opinion, the greatest of all time in terms of the stats, Novak Djokovic. He's number 7. At 37 years old, he's still in the top 10. That's amazing. There was an episode of Holding Court with Patrick McEnroe called "Will Novak Win Another Grand Slam Title?" And I guess if you want to know if I think he'll win another Grand Slam title, I don't think he will. I don't think he'll win another Grand Slam title. Do I want him to? Yes, I do actually. And I don't care which one he wins, whether if it's the French Open, Wimbledon, or U.S. Open. Don't matter. But honestly, there's really not much for him to prove. He's the only big thing missing that he finally captured was the Olympic gold medal. I was happy for him. He finally got what he wanted. The Olympic gold medal. That was amazing. And I think the only thing left that he really wants at this point is to win one more Grand Slam, because he'll have the most of any other player. He's at 24 right now. He's tied with a female player named Margaret Court. She has 24 majors. She has the most on the women's side. Serena Williams has 23. There was a few times where she got close, but she couldn't finish and get to that number 24. Novak is on a quest to win number 25. I don't think it's going to happen because it's just harder the older you get, Now, listen, he's number 7 in the world. For a 37-year-old, he is a really good player. A lot of players getting in their late 30s are not as good. There's another great player in his late 30s. His name is Gael Monfils from France. Man, he can put on a show. I remember watching some of his matches at the Australian Open. Really entertaining player. So, and it seems like this guy, him and Novak, it seems like they don't age. They look the same when they were in their 20s. So, I give them credit for that. So, let me tell you something. If you're a tennis fan, you'll understand what I'm saying here. Novak could have won Grand Slam number 25 if he never got defaulted at the 2020 U.S. Open, if Wimbledon wasn't canceled in 2020 because of COVID, or if he was allowed to play in Australia at the Australian Open in 2022 and the U.S. Open in 2022. Yeah, he missed those 4 majors. It all started with 2020 Wimbledon because of COVID. He got disqualified at the 2020 U.S. Open for accidentally hitting a lineswoman in the throat with a ball. It wasn't intentional, but unfortunately that was the rules. And people were pissed off about that when he got disqualified. 2022 Australian Open. For some reason, I think he got his visa messed up and he wasn't allowed to participate at the Australian Open. And he was the number 1 player at the time. So that also sucked. Not allowing the number 1 seeded player. And the same thing happened at the U.S. Open the same year, 2022. Because he wasn't vaccinated for COVID. Like, I don't care about that. We want to see the man play. I bet you, if none of those 4 things happened, I bet you he would have won at least 2 Grand Slams. If Wimbledon 2020 wasn't canceled, he would have been the favorite to win Wimbledon that year, and I think he would have won it. If he didn't get disqualified at the 2020 U.S. Open, I think he would have won it because he was the best player at the time. If he was in the 2022 Australian Open and the 2022 U.S. Open, he would have been the favorite to win those. He probably would have won all 4 of those, and he would have been at Grand Slam number 28. And and if that's the case, or if he's at 25 right now, then I think he would have retired because there's just really no need to play. But hey, I think he loves playing the sport. That's why he's still playing it. But I can tell deep down inside him, he wants to win one more Grand Slam title. And I hope he does. And I just hope he doesn't injure himself where he has to retire. No one wants to see someone get injured and then they're forced to retire, end their career. No thank you. That's it for this edition of KSN. So yeah, a little different sports news because I haven't talked about that in a while. And I'll see you guys on Friday. We'll see what else happens in this crazy world that we live in sports. But I know sports is stressful, but we love it. Yeah. I'll see you next time for more KSN. Have a good one. Thank you for listening to Keith Sports News.